Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Righteous Force, Brian, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well, good to have you all. Welcome. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
No, there's that need an R value. Go on, Neil.
What about the video on Light puncture train? Doesn't that prove Earth curves?
No.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Armin.
QE did a great like recovering of that on his recent show, on the most recent QE live. So I don't, unless I'm mistaken, he didn't do it on Ballbusters, did he? Unless I'm tripping. No, I think he did it on his most recent QE live. Yes, he did. He did it on part C of his treatment on Earth Chronicles versus Flat Earth Debate. And he took it apart in regards to the lack of left to right curvature, if you want to take it to a 4th grade level, I think he said, and then compare that to the planet Orleans, which you'd have to be on to have the curvature and the claimed aspect that they present it in. So he did a good job. He just went over the things that we went over back in 2015 when we first saw this set of pylons, as opposed to a causeway, which it isn't. Anyway, so yeah, just check out QE's channel if you want to see it. But I mean, it's like, you kind of want to faceplant when someone presents something like that, because you're like, wow, this has been so ripped to pieces, it's untrue. There's so much material on how this has been pulled apart out there. It just goes to show, and it's one of the reasons I said that it gave me renewed confidence in regards to how much of a surprise you, audience member, will be if you listen to the show, take on board some of the argument points, exactly like Patrick Gunnels did. You know, he went and debated a completely different subject and dropped me a PayPal. He was like, I want to give you money because I want to debate based on the principles that you employ on Flat Earth Debate. You and your debating team have taught me how to debate and win. And here's a thanks for that. Oh, by the way, do you want to do a debate with me?
Yeah, but
which is great.
that would be a reification fallacy, wouldn't it?
So what's wrong with that picture, Nathan?
What's wrong with what?
It's a reification fallacy, that picture.
That doesn't tell me much.
There's nothing wrong with the picture other than what it's presenting is to say that between you and the horizon, which is rising from the perspective of the viewer, they're claiming that the curve presented in the view through the swampy mist that is Lake Pontchartrain, that's Earth curve. Okay, well, if that's the case, then in a wide angle, you'd have the same represented curve just on the other axis, because it's supposed to be falling away from you in all Earth as a sphere. It's supposed to be falling away from you in all directions at 8 inches per mile squared. So if that's the case, then you're not going to have a flat horizon with the land seeming to rise up to it and then curve while it's doing it. That isn't the way it would work. If it was presenting a sphere, it would present it in all directions exactly as claimed.
Well, it actually proves the Earth is flat, not globe. And I pointed this out to them, and they won't deal with it. Across in the actual Soundly photo, he's looking across the actual causeway, not the power lines, but the causeway. At the other side of the lake, you can see at the shoreline you can see the shoreline, the other side of the lake, and there's inferior. How you know it's a shoreline there at the other side of the lake is because there's inferior mirage. So you can't have inferior mirage with a certain gas pressure and without a physical surface to mirage. You can't have inferior mirage. So that straight over. Well, that's where there's supposed to be this curve happening. So it proves the Earth is not a globe. Can't debunk inferior mirage. They can't be debunked. They only happen one way. That's the end of that. It's over. It was over years ago when I pointed it out.
Thanks, but I was expecting a different answer, to be honest with you. Didn't somebody calculate the distances between those towers to figure out the alleged radius it would have to be, the Earth would have to be, if that photo is true?
Yeah, QE.
To be...
That's why. That's where
yes.
Yes. QE did it. That's where he gets the reference. Planet Orleans Parish, I think he calls it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. It's been a while. I don't remember. Yeah, so that it would be like the radius would have been like tiny, right?
Yes. You'd be on a teeny tiny Orleans-sized ball.
I think that's much better argument against that photo.
That would be again reifying your eyes as
being...
being...
Rebel in the middle of a point?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Rebel.
Yeah. So I think that would have been a much better rebuttal to that photo. The argument to that photo is that if that photo is true, as Dave White had presented it on the Soundly's behalf, then that would mean they live on the planet Orleans, right?
Right. His claim was that it matches the Earth curve model. No, it does not.
Right. Yeah, I was actually expecting you say exactly that during the debate, but I think it went all downhill rather quickly. Anyway, so yeah, aside from that, I would go to Genesis of the distance to the horizon, which is what is our Genesis? Al-Baruni, yeah, is my man. Yeah, he proved it all long time ago.
Meanwhile,
so there's no need to think about it again.
Well, meanwhile, we cannot see and cannot measure and would not expect to see a geometric horizon measured by Al-Baruni, hence debunking the R value measured by Al-Baruni.
What do you mean by we should not see a geometric horizon?
Right. Black Swan. We present the horizon beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Response from Glober. It's not the geometric horizon. You remember? Response to Black Swan. It's not a geometric horizon. We wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. These are quotes. So what the hell's Al-Baruni measuring then? Not the geometric horizon. Therefore, he cannot derive geometry and give you the R value.
The difference is Al-Baruni had tremendous luck. He just so happens to come out and measure it in the perfect weather conditions.
Meanwhile,
and every other photo taken from then, people got unlucky.
No.
And whatever measurements they did, but Al-Baruni did. I think he's a man of God.
No, it's not luck. There's a arbitrary, but always in effect in the globe model. 7/6 of the radius terrestrial refraction at all times, without exception. Now that's only applicable in their maths because Earth curve and Earth as a sphere only exists in maths. But by their maths and their assertions of their radius-based atmospheric, that's sphere-shaped air, refraction, there is never any possibility whatsoever of ever measuring the geometric limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as Al-Baruni has claimed to do to derive the R value that gives you your 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, because it's based on R that Al-Baruni measured.
Okay. So what you're saying, if Al-Baruni went like a couple of hours earlier,
no,
we would have had a different radius.
Yeah, well, yes and no. You'd never acquire the radius because what you're trying to do, or what Al-Baruni is doing, if he even existed, who cares, is measuring the geometry. So it's not, oh, well, I'm going to measure the atmospheric refraction. Well, because that's based on the R that he's about to measure and hasn't measured yet. So it's paradoxically...
he didn't know about refraction.
It's just a paradox. You can't account for an R value of base refraction at 7/6 of the radius if you haven't yet measured the radius. And if you can't see a geometric horizon, right? I'm nearly there. If you can't see a geometric horizon, you can't measure it to get the R to give you the refraction to account for the refraction. So it's a paradox. You can't get around it. Speaking of which, any evidence of the R value beyond Al-Biruni is debunked with the Black Swan. Not to mention the fact that he had to measure the height of the mountain off a flat plane with an elevation angle.
No, it's
sorry.
No, it's a thought experiment. That's all it is. And go on, Brian. That's all I want to say.
Well, whatever Al-Biruni did after he went up the mountain was also a flat Earth measurement, because he measured the dip angle, which occurs a horizontal baseline. So it doesn't really matter what he did, because he just, you can't measure a globe from off the surface. Can't be done.
I mean,
not with right angle triangles.
That debate on Chronicles, when Josh was saying, "Oh, you know, when Earth is so big, you can never see curve," and the next thing you know, Dave comes on and says, "Here, I got a picture of Earth curve." It's like, I was looking at Josh's face. I said, "Wait a minute, your buddy there said you can never see it, and now you got this picture of Planet Orleans showing us Earth curve." Okay, great. Then I want to see that Earth curve everywhere all the time. Oh, well, it depends if you live by water, it's high humidity, miraging. Oh, so that's not Earth curve, that's optical then. Perspective kind of issue things, right? No, we want geometric Earth curve because you got an R value. How'd you get your R value? Those two contradicted each other so badly there.
Yeah, they didn't even realize it either. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None whatsoever. No, there's only rotation of the stars, the sun, the moon, and the wandering stars. That's the only rotation there is. And this is easily proven by a drone lifting off this Earth, which they say is spinning. So if the drone's on the Earth, it'd be spinning with the Earth. So that's not the way to find out. But the way to find out is get it off the Earth. Now with the drone's camera, do the stars move or are they stationary?
They're still moving. Because
according to them,
I've seen it. A drone takes off, the stars still move relative to the position of the drone, not the other way around. They don't suddenly stop moving and move along as the drone moves with the stars because there's Coriolis effect. That never happens.
So then that debunks the reason the apparent motion of the stars is because the Earth is turning. So it's over right there.
Indeed.
But the atmosphere turns with Earth.
You just said Coriolis effect 20 seconds ago, Rebel.
Yeah, Coriolis effect.
Well, that's the antithesis of Coriolis effect that you've just stated. If it moves with it, that's one reference frame.
I don't compute.
Coriolis effect is two reference frames. Non-inertial turning reference frame. That's the one you'll be observing this effect from. Inertial reference frame. That's the one that's not turning. So when you describe Coriolis with a ball being tossed, the ball just gets tossed in a straight path, and you, on a roundabout underneath it, see it seem to curve. Well, that's an inertial reference frame that the ball travels through, and a non-inertial turning reference frame that you're sat on watching it. Two reference frames. If you say Earth and atmosphere move together, that's like saying the wind is attached to the roundabout and will carry the ball in the same path that you move on the roundabout. So you don't see anything happen. You're like, okay, well, that's the antithesis of Coriolis effect. Two reference frames as opposed to one. If the Earth moves with the atmosphere, there's only one reference frame.
Well, their actual claim, their actual claim is that there is deviation north to south and south to north. That's their actual claim. That there's no deviation east to west and west to east, right? This is the official globe claim. Now, what they're claiming is an actual deviation. So that's not the Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect is an apparent deviation. Regardless of the direction, there is no direction for Coriolis to happen. It is just a visual effect. So what they're claiming is Coriolis as Coriolis is not Coriolis in the first place because they're deviation. Now, more to the point, this deviation is never recorded, it's never accounted for, and it never happens. all flights from London, Accra, from London, UK to Accra, Ghana, without flight. All flights take 6.5 hours. They all travel, and they don't account for any globe rotation underneath them. Neither does any other flight. If you look at most flights will fly what they call Great Circle routes, and most Great Circle routes are north-south. They're all Great Circle routes are mostly all north-south routes. And none of these account for this claimed rotation underneath them. Doesn't happen. So.
Oh, what about hurricanes? Like,
hold on, let's hear Rebel, and then I'll ask Rebel something. Go ahead, Rebel.
Yeah, thanks. What about hurricanes? Don't they say like different hemispheres they rotate different directions because Coriolis?
Hemisphere.
The hemispheres rotate in different directions, do they?
No.
What?
Don't they say like hurricanes rotations different depending on which hemisphere they are, precisely because of Coriolis?
If you look it up in Wiki or listen to Tyson, yes, they'll make that claim. But as Brian's just detailed, that's an actual spin direction, an actual effect, as opposed to the not actual drift of a ball that moves straight as you rotate beneath it and look at it seem to curve. That seeming to curve but actually moving straight is Coriolis. That's the illusion of Coriolis that Brian's just detailed, how when globers describe things with an actual curved trajectory as a result of Earth and atmosphere tied together but moving at different rates as you move north, slowing down, causing an actual curved path in an aeroplane. That was a pretty good verbatim description of what's in Wiki, right next to the description of actual Coriolis effect with a little GIF describing it and showing it. Meanwhile, they bastardized Coriolis effect because we don't see the effect. The original reason for using it, as 10th Man described, this is a good, really concise summary, I might trim this out, is because the stars move at 15 degrees an hour. Therefore, you start with the claim that Earth's turning beneath them. That's Coriolis effect. But then when nothing else drifts at all ever, they have to come up with an excuse for why nothing drifts, which confuses your average bull-believing idiot like Simon Dan, who will then boldly declare that the reference frames, 2 of them for Coriolis effect, are ruined, because they don't understand that in the convoluted bastardization of Coriolis effect, they've got an actual drift occurring.
So is Rebel saying, like, when I first heard Coriolis was in the southern hemisphere, your water will go down the drain one way, but in the northern hemisphere, it'll go down the other way. That's what I was told Coriolis was years ago.
Yeah, well, that's wrong. That's what the globe have decided to give you as a readdress of not actual drift into actual spin direction of things like hurricanes and water going down drains. Nothing could be further from Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect is a sight gag, an illusion. It's the not actual drift the ball thrown over a roundabout seems to take as you turn beneath it. Likewise, if there's a tree branch dangling over a roundabout and you turn under the tree branch looks like it's moving. It's not. You're moving underneath it. The illusion of the tree branch moving when you're moving underneath it is Coriolis effect. But they've reinserted an actual change in vector, a change in direction, an actual drift. Because, why? Well, we don't see any Coriolis deflection. And if we did, Earth's turning underneath things, shortening flight times. So they say, oh, it all travels together. There's only a very little drift, barely noticeable if you go north. They're essentially explaining it away whilst retaining some aspects of Coriolis effect.
Right. The spinning down the drain is Globiolus effect, as Brian called it.
Yes, 10th.
Nathan, don't we have a pilot who, from the air, has to have correction for Coriolis? How did that go?
Wolfie 6020, what a dumbass. Yeah, he said that he corrected for Coriolis effect, corrected for the drift in an aeroplane. Well, yeah, a misapprehension of what Coriolis effect actually is. That's a not actual drift, an illusion, a sight gag. That's not going to be corrected for in the trajectory of the ball travelling over the roundabout. Ball travels straight, you see it seem to drift. Well, the ball isn't radioing down to you to tell you that it's going to make minor adjustments because you see it seem to curve. But by equivalence, if you've got Coriolis effect in an aeroplane and you're watching it from beneath, seeing it seem to curve, as is claimed if you've got Coriolis effect on a globe Earth, then you're not going to be correcting for that in an aeroplane. The only thing you would have to correct for if you were in an aeroplane is if Earth was turning underneath the aeroplane. And they don't correct for that. Ever. Because Earth isn't turning underneath anything.
So what you're saying is it's an optical illusion, that's it.
Yeah. But if we had that optical illusion, in other words, if we observed Coriolis effect on a globe Earth that was turning, then Earth's turning underneath things like aeroplanes and hot air balloons and drones. It's not. Earth isn't turning.
But it does, though.
Does it?
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson calculated what the Coriolis effect that affected the football game, I believe it was. And he calculated precisely how many inches or whatever, fraction of an inch. It affected the ball.
One of his best magic tricks.
I've seen it on TV, so it must be true.
Okay. What he's doing is he's convoluting between Globiolus effect and actual Coriolis deflection. That is to say that the ball seems to curve through the goalpost as Earth turns underneath, and you can calculate the deflection rate as the goalposts move beneath the ball that's left the ground. So he calculates the rate, presumably in line with Globiolus, because he gives the direction as pointing a certain degree north. So he's calculating Globiolus, I believe. Meanwhile, the effect he's describing is only induced, I'll say it again, if Earth is turning underneath footballs and hot air balloons and aeroplanes and helicopters and anything that leaves the ground, including you if you jump up and down. That doesn't happen, though. So it's utter nonsense. But a great magic trick by Neil deGrasse Tyson, one I've got a lot of admiration and respect for him for conjuring as a heliocentrist. You've got to take your hat off to the guy. That's a blinding trick, second only to him talking about the beach ball and slapping it. You can't see Earth curve from only 2 millimeters above this beach ball that I'm reifying into your belief. That stuff is flat. That would be the horizon you've reified into a physical geometric limitation for an ant on a beach ball. Blinding trick, his best one ever. But his second best trick is that trick with the football, because he's got to really carefully toe the line between bullshitting about what Earth doesn't do, that's turn underneath things, as described in Coriolis, and having an effect of sorts to describe and calculate, so people can remember a convoluted gaggle screw of nonsense about claim to be Coriolis effect that is occurring as Earth turns under a football to a very minor degree that he can calculate and give you in inches that says, according to him, saved the game. Anyway.
Earth's too big.
Ooh. Didn't he also debunk the Eratosthenes experiment?
I was going to ask you a question,
2 wells.
Rebel, for those of you who are unaware, has been here forever, right? He is as dyed-in-the-wood flat earther as they get. But he's here asking these questions like he's some sort of newbie. And I want to know what your game is. What's going on, Rebel? We haven't seen you for a while, and then you've come back in like you've never existed and don't know what's going on.
I'll tell you. I realize I have been absent for a long time. But when I come back, and I come back occasionally, the level of conversation is, I'd say like a master level, right? And by asking these questions, I'm sort of trying to bring the conversation down to the amateur level for anyone new coming into the conversation to understand the principles from a layman perspective, so to speak.
Yeah, we got too big here. That's what you're saying.
Well, you guys been at it for years, right? So even the jargon and the terminologies that they use, not many people. I don't want to speak on behalf of many people. I would say people that I know, it would fly completely above their heads. So if we bring down to concrete examples between the genesis story of curve, like Al-Biruni, and the famous TV evangelicals, scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's something that people can actually have grasp on.
No, I understand.
And
I think I follow.
To have it as a starting point.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rebel. What you're saying is, typically when we've addressed newbies, we're like, look, there's plenty of people out there like Mark Sargent that can cover the newbies if they're new to the topic. What you're saying is slightly different, though. You're saying you want to retain the cutting-edge argumentation and arguments themselves that we have here, but dumb it down to a level that your average Joe can still understand the cutting-edge argumentation. Is that what you're saying? Also, shout out to Retro Bill. Just one sec. Coriolis never fails to give me a good chuckle, says Retro Bill. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Go ahead, Rebel.
Yeah, you're right. So it's kind of a starting point. So the range of conversation sort of narrowed over the years to be at the master level all the time. But I'm trying to expand the range so new people can have a chance to grasp more advanced concepts.
I can bear that in mind now, because with that in mind, rather than laughing at you when you said, oh, the Earth spins in the opposite direction in the southern hemisphere, well, no. But as a result of the claim, you do have people that assert that you've got clockwise/anti-clockwise direction of movement for the stars when moving hemispherically. That's a term that's correct. But when moving from one hemisphere to the other. And in so doing, they make the claim that, without realising that the direction they're stating is relative, that they move in, quote, opposite directions. No, they don't. All of the stars rise in the east and set in the west. Doesn't matter where you are. The only exception is Polaris. They all do the same thing, in other words. It doesn't matter how far south you go. But people assume that you suddenly got these stars moving in the other direction. It's like, no. Make them go the other direction now, if you're in the darkness, which we're not here, but if you were, now, by looking up at them and turning around. People don't understand.
But Nathan, clockwise and counterclockwise.
It's a relative direction. It's like if you're looking at a clock, let's say you've got a glass clock, you stand one side of it, which way the hands go, right? Then you go the other side of the clock, they go the other way. Are the hands going in a different direction? No. It's relative to how you're viewing it. Likewise with the stars, if you look up, they're going one way, and then you turn around, oh, they're going the other way now. Amazing.
Location is the independent variable.
God. It's because I republished the Planner Walk stuff while my computer's in for repair. Yeah. So, location is your independent variable for earthquakes. All right, move over there.
And stars, and star rotation. It controls star rotation too.
Indeed. It's your independent variable. Basically, you've got scientific validity there. I mean, what more do you need? Speaking of which, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Well, that would have to start with an R value measurement, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we covered that.
Well, if Venus is the same size as Earth, right, you can triangulate or whatever, calculate the distance to the sun by its relative size to other planets.
Good thing we had that guy fly up to Venus and measure it.
No, Christian Huygens just assumed Earth had the same radius value as Venus, or the other way around. Venus had the same Earth radius, and therefore he could apply Kepler's third law and scale everything and give you the values like 93 million miles.
So that's where the whole thing started?
Hold on, Rebel. Go ahead, Brian.
And did he have a measurement of an R value for the Earth we stand on?
No.
Yeah.
He had a lot of assumptions following on to that point as well, Brian. I'm sure you want to detail them, but maybe a couple. The fact that Earth is a sphere, the fact that we have orbital motion, Kepler himself, with all of his assumptions that tally on to that. There's a lot of assumptions going on before Christian Huygens gets there.
Well, they actually assumed that the horizon was a physical geometric location. That was the first assumption.
Yes.
To be able to come up with maps.
Yep.
As I said before, they have maps, we have measurement. That's the difference between these two camps.
What's that? First assumption flies in the face of every measurement taken of Earth up until that point. Because you've got to assume that the baseline everything's referenced to suddenly bends. I wonder at what point someone said, hang on a second. Like with the Al-Biruni contradiction, that's the best thing ever because it's their heart and soul of the R value, right? Al-Biruni gets his elevation angle measurement. He takes a measurement of an angle off a flat baseline, gets the height of the mountain, goes up the mountain, and then does his trig with a measurement of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon we can't see because it's refracted and you'll never expect to see it, and it only exists in the maths that haven't been developed yet because Al-Biruni hasn't measured it yet, paradoxically. Meanwhile, at what point, if Al-Biruni existed, does he go, I've just measured a flat plane to get this height. Now, potentially where I'm standing to get the height is going to be roughly where the horizon is when I go up the mountain. But when I get there, I'm going to decide that the ground I just measured flat to give me the height actually curves away from me. He's got to make that leap of logic during the process because it's in the process, to the point where people who cover Al-Biruni and his measurement have to make apologetics for the fact that he measures the angle off a flat plane. Angles, he uses several to get the height.
That's like a next level of debunk. The first level of debunk, I think, is better, where he's measuring geometric horizon.
I mean, Black Swan's always going to be number one. That said, elevation angle measurements, the more I put it out there to people who aren't flat earthers, the more I realise that they do get it with a bit of an explanation, normally on my rug, which is a map. But,
well, the height of... Sorry, Nathan.
No, I'm just saying, it's just... Black Swan is the best globe debunking ever, and it's never going to change, I don't think. Second only to maybe the gas pressure without a container argument. But in terms of flat earth proof, I can't even think of something else that I've been able to put my stamp next to and go, I'm happy to put that out there. In some of the military stuff, I haven't been able to confirm it. So as much as I trust the people who are putting it out there and their information, it's just like, yeah, it's a bit beyond my own grasp. Anyway, sorry, I've waffled on a bit too much, Brian. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that the height of void correction proves that the horizon, regardless of how far away it is, has to be in a horizontal line with the water underneath the boat. It has to be, otherwise celestial navigation cannot exist because it cannot work. And that's the whole point of the height of void correction, is that it corrects the eye line down to the water underneath the boat, giving you a 90-degree right angle. That's the whole, not just at the observer's location, but at the GP point of the celestial body, because that horizontal line travels through what you see as the horizon and on to the GP point. That is your horizontal measurement.
What's happening is the one thing that they saw initially as maybe a lifeline. Look, there's some wiggle room in this. There's a correction being made. Well, I can just assert that it's made from a tangent point geometric horizon. Oh, by the way, how's that working out for you, Rufy? Meanwhile, you've got this aspect that they thought they had wiggle room. That's the dip correction. Well, wondering why at the time we were finding ourselves on the back foot having to defend it when we didn't fully understand it. Yeah, it's because it's a stone cold flat earth proof. The only way it can be measured and corrected is against sea level, against the baseline, against the horizontal plane that you form with your sextant, be it with a spirit level sextant or with the horizon itself. The dip correction, if you're using the horizon, that measurement requires a flat plane. So there's no wiggle room about it. It's a flat earth proof, just like everything in celestial navigation, right, Brian?
Well, yeah, and the thing about it is they can't claim a tangent plane under those circumstances, because you can't have a tangent plane where it's a horizontal between the water underneath your boat and the horizon and on beyond the horizon, because the horizon is really there. So what they wanted to claim was there was a tangent plane they were creating to create their 90, and the dip was a dip below that tangent plane up to the tangent plane, forgetting about the height of void correction, because a lot of our opposition didn't even realize the height of void correction was dip correction until I left them off. Like me and Tent and others, we left them off for the best part of a year. They didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't realize the two. Most of them didn't realize the two were the same thing. And so consequently, when you do height of void correction, which is dip correction, where the horizon is, it's distance from you. And as has nothing to do with anything. That has no relevance on the dip correction. Because all that matters is that when you do the dip correction, that the water underneath the boat, that you're a direct horizontal with the horizon and beyond to the GP point.
That's why they always called it dip correction, because the title alone, height of eye correction, negates their... How's that geometric horizon working out, Rufy? Yeah, it negates them having a tangent. You're correcting down to the deck, down to the ground. So tangent to what? From the ground, from the point that you're correcting to. It's not done twice. You only do it once. The height of eye correction, that is. And in doing so, you're proving that you're getting a 90 degree. You're proving that the Earth is flat. You're proving that thousands of miles from your location is a star, and at its zenith is a measurement you're taking with a 90 degree flat baseline between you and it. Earth's flat. No two ways about it. Shout out to the main man, Arwin, says insanity is sanity. Good to see you, Amir. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
It's funny that they wanted to make the dip correction a separate correction from height of eye correction. Even as Davis Sextant Manual and other diagrams made from official sources try to make a double correction out of it, when it's not. One correction. There's only, when you go to the almanac, there is only a correction. One correction. So which one do you choose? Do you do height of eye, right, which is dip correction, or do you try to do what they try to do, which is a dip correction, mathematical dip correction from a geometric horizon that's they're horizontal up to the horizontal, then you don't have your height of eye correction done. So you don't have a 90 no matter what you do. It's all convoluted. And then you have to remember they have a horizon down because it's refracted. So not only is it below the horizontal, but it's never in the same place. The whole thing is a disaster. There's only one correction. If you're 15 feet above the water, your eye line, then there's a correction for that. If you're 3 weeks on a boat, then every time you do a sighting, that correction will be used every time you do the sighting. You won't be doing two corrections, there's just one. And that's to bring the eye line down to the water underneath the boat. Because you're creating the 90. You can't create the 90 without a perpendicular. That means your zenith is making a perpendicular with sea level, making
Earth flat. Do a bit more housekeeping before we get into the chit chats. Any evidence gas pressure exists without a container?
How could you ever even try to evidence that?
I don't know. It's not my claim. I don't claim that the sky is a vacuum and there's gas pressure not dispersing into it.
With an example using two containers, of course.
Yeah, it gets more and more ludicrous when you ask the ballers to try and demonstrate gas pressure without a container. They'll say, here's a demonstration of a containerless container. Inside the container, there's gas pressure without a container. You're like, yeah, but there's a container. What about if I present you with two containers? A container for the gas to disperse into a different container, and then I can say that the different container without a lid isn't a container. Because it hasn't got a lid, therefore not containing. Yeah, ludicrous.
Yeah, gas pressure without a container proven by 3 containers.
See, here we go, 3 containers. Go ahead, Rebel.
Yeah, there's the 2 he used and the one we're standing in.
Indeed.
That's 3.
Exactly. If you've got gas pressure moving from one canister to a pipe, a container without a top on it, and you've achieved gas pressure in the first instance, then in order to have atmospheric, in quotes, gas pressure, then you've got to have containment. So we've got containment for the gas pressure to be pre-existing. Then you've got a container of different gas, different higher pressure that's going to be transferred into a different container that's already in existing gas pressure. So there's a lot of containment, a lot of gas pressure that requires containment. The sky is not a vacuum. Outer space is fake. Any scientific evidence of gravity? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, they haven't clearly defined which gravity they're saying there's scientific evidence for yet. We've yet to see any scientific evidence for any of the different versions of gravity.
Scientific evidence would need an experiment, wouldn't it, Brian?
Yes. Well, it
We
need
need
a
an
phenomenon
observed
first.
phenomenon first. Yeah.
Exactly. Took the words out of my mouth, Duncan.
Yeah, but it would still have to go through the experiment, correct?
No. Experiment's the last step. It's where you vary and manipulate that which you assumed caused the phenomena you observed in step one. But step one, observe a phenomena. So in terms of scientific evidence of gravity, they fail on all fronts. The 108-year out-of-date rhetoric of Newtonian gravity, that's mass attracting mass, in case you aren't keeping up, isn't current. It's superseded by Einstein. It's superseded by fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending. Well, that's a conceptual medium, fourth-dimensional space-time, bending. It's not a force, it's not a phenomenon, it's not something you can observe. They go out looking for it and the effects of it so they can describe it with little lights that they composite in the sky.
So there's no phenomena for that
No.
pseudo-Riemannian force space. I got it.
Quite the contrary. It's used as an explanation when they composite together things like black holes and then use it as a causal description for something that they've observed. They're not varying and manipulating that which they assume cause and effect they've observed and then seeing if it causes it by way of an experiment. So, like I say, experiment comes right at the end.
Like you say, black holes. When have they observed a black hole?
In the composites.
No. When have they observed? I'll rephrase the question. When has anybody seen a damn black hole?
Even if we did, that would be the phenomena. If you're saying a black hole is a phenomena, then if you're going to try and validate that with science, then you're trying to validate the cause of the effect. Well, they just say that bending space-time causes light to get trapped. And the lensing, gravitational lensing, is what we're observing. In other words, it's used as a cause. Well, are they varying and manipulating, bending pseudo-Riemannian force space-time to cause that effect? To validate that it does actually cause it? No, they're just putting in a just-so story after compositing together a load of images.
But what if we change our location?
Then that's the cause. Like time. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Negative.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
That would be a reverse dynamo. No one's observed that.
Any evidence that great circle roots are actually circles?
No. Absolutely zero evidence of that. Nobody can give me evidence. No commercial.
It's a new one. Can you expand on that?
Expand on it.
What does that mean? I don't understand the question.
I don't understand your reply. Expansion is an entropic effect. I'm totally lost. That's a second law of thermodynamics question. We're not talking about gas pressure. We're talking about great circle roots. You'll have to clarify your request to Brian, because Brian's the one who's come up with this.
Yeah, great circle routes.
I understand.
Hold on, he's going to ask you the question again, Brian. Go ahead, Brepple.
Okay.
Yeah, so what is it about great circle routes?
They're not circles. It's total nonsense.
Yeah, what a great circle route is a circle of a globe Earth. And it's claimed, opposition, and just by the mainstream, that airplanes and shipping companies and that use these routes, right? But the whole point of the routes is what they allow shipping companies, airline companies to do is completely avoid the Great Southern Oceans, right? So they don't have to deal with mostly north-south, south-north routes. That's what they are. There's a few of them that are a little bit skewed off of that, but there's no great circle route around the great, let's say, south of the equator. Nothing happens there, right? And there's no great circle routes to go around in the south or north of the equator. They're all straight line routes. You see, the great circle route is only a circle because of the Habermas formula. They create an arc length of a globe as their route, as their distance. But that's only when they use the Habermas formula. If they don't use the Habermas formula, and they don't do that, the route is just a straight line. As a captain or a navigator on a ship pointed out recently in a video, that on the map it's a curve, but in reality it's just a straight line. So there's a claim that there is great circle routes. That would mean people are traveling right by airplane and by boat in a circle. And now a circle would involve an R value and other things. So circle routes are actually circles. The answer to that is no. There is no evidence whatsoever that any airplane.
I see. So you're talking about. You're talking about those lines they draw on the maps when you fly, that supposed to approximate the radius of Earth to be a great circle route.
I mean, the thing about the great circle routes, you wouldn't be able to find me one great circle route that's actually used, because they try and claim that their equator is a great circle route, but that's not used by anybody. No shipping company, no airline company uses the equator as a route, because in reality, the equator is a circle. They use all the other claimed great circle routes because they are not a circle, because they're a straight line. And that's the thing about it. Every great circle route used, great circle route that they actually use for actual travel, works exactly the same as the straight line. There's no difference. Of that route is purely a begging the question fallacy. That's all it is. A mathematical begging the question fallacy. Exists.
Right. They're mathematically derived based on globe model. That's right.
Yeah, they make they just use the center of their globe, right? Just pre-assuming an R value, pre-assuming a globe, pre-assuming a heliocentric model, and they turn what is a straight line route into an arc length. That's all they do, mathematically. But in reality,
right,
none of that happens.
Thanks for explanation. Appreciate it.
Great super chat from Insanity Sanity says, only thing ballers have to fear is fear itself. Dun dun dun. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Any evidence?
Can I quickly ask Brian a question?
You can. We've got a couple more housekeeping questions. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved surface?
Nope. Can't be done. Of course, at 90 degrees. Horizontal baseline.
Any evidence that horizontal is not level?
Nope. No evidence of that either.
Go ahead. Ask Brian.
Cool stuff. Thanks. Brian, on that explanation about the great circle routes, right? I just had a question. Have you ever checked on Google Maps? Because based on what you're saying, it kind of makes sense of what I've been picking up on Google Maps. When you go over the poles and you try to do any shape over there, it just doesn't want to do it. But any other place on the begging the question fallacy, you can do it. So whenever you have a moment, just go check it out. And it kind of makes sense to what you're saying, is that great circle routes has never been proven. And in my mind, that explains what I'm seeing on Google Earth.
Yeah, well, if you look, ours are basically north to south, south north. They may not be exactly along the longitude lines, but they're using basically a great circle route has to cover the whole circumference of the globe, right? Number one, that makes the globe has to be, because this is what a lot of people don't understand about the globe, it has to mathematically be a perfect sphere. It can't be an oblate spheroid. That's a separate claim based on rotation. But all those routes, they do avoid the North Pole. Just 1 second, I just want to finish this answer. They do completely avoid the North Pole, right? All those routes completely avoid the North Pole, and they're all they are straight line routes that are curved, mathematically curved. And the route works exactly the same, no difference in distance and destination or time or anything else as a straight line. Works exactly the same. But the problem they have is that airplanes don't fly in circles. They can't. They must fly horizontals. And the Great Circle routes are used constantly, every day, by all commercial air travel.
Answer your question?
Kind of yes, but it kind of makes me think of so what is it? How does it look? You know what I mean? It's like constantly I'm coming up with this staring me in the face. Is like which maps do they use? You know, to actually travel and ship stuff on our plane, right?
We covered
and it
this on
constantly brings me back to it.
We covered this on a recent show. There's a video clip that I trimmed out. I can't remember the title, but in the beginning of the clip, he's showing you how they plot it, and they plot it on the Mercator. And when they plot it on the Mercator, which is taking the latitude lines, which are straight on that map, it bends the line that they're actually travelling. Because obviously, if you've taken what were curved circle lines of areas of equal elevation to Polaris, and then straighten them out, what you then put on the map as a straight path that you're travelling becomes curved when you plot it on the Mercator. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. But does that mean that Owen was correct?
Arwin? I didn't think Arwin said anything.
Pac-Man.
What did Arwin say?
And all of that. Pac-Man.
Pac-Man? No. On the contrary. Well, we don't know where the end of the line is. We know where they land and then take off and go back again. But are they doubling back on themselves? No. So no, it doesn't make Pac-Man model correct.
I was just thinking that because everything kind of points. Okay, Brian.
No, you go ahead. You're the one who's opened this conversation up. Go ahead. Truth be told.
No, I just want to hear what Brian says. I think Brian did a lot of research into this.
Yeah, well, anything to do with the Universal Transverse Mercator map is like what's the best way to describe it? Like a doorway to a begging the question fallacy. Because when they start placing anything onto that map, the next thing they're going to do is take it off of that map and place it onto a globe. And that's how they, with all the Great Circle routes, that's what they do. So if you look at celestial navigation, they measure everything. All the radii are measured horizontally. All the circles are 2D circles of equal altitude, because they have to be. What they do then is they place these real world measurements that are measured horizontally onto the Universal Transverse Mercator map, and then they take them off the Universal Transverse Mercator map and make them arc lengths on a globe. And they destroy pi in the process, because they end up having circles placed onto their globe that are smaller than the radii that was measured for them. And they've now curved the radii as well. So they've curved radii, basically. And that's what they do. But the whole point of it is for begging the question fallacy. So the Universal Transverse Mercator map is the beginning of the begging the question fallacy. So they can then turn real-world horizontal distances and horizontal measurements into curved distances. That's what they want to do, arc lengths. And that's what they do. And that's what, in the end, what did they do after the Universal Transverse Mercator? What did they need? You need to have our sign. Because they want to, what they're saying is they're correcting it back to globe, but it didn't start on globe. It started flat. It gets mutated on the Universal Transverse Mercator map, and then it's further mutated onto a spherical surface. But all that doesn't matter, because every route that they have as an arc length, every single one of those are no different as a straight line. There'll be no difference in distance, no difference in time. It'll work exactly the same from that location A to that location B. No difference. So what they've got to do is prove that airplanes fly around the globe, which they can't do. That's the end of that.
Can I say something real quick?
You can.
I'm on TikTok, and Google Maps has this feature where it allows you to look at the globe as a sphere, and you set up these little coordinate points to map something like a crop tool, and people grab continents for fun, and pretty much flat earthers, they grab continents for fun and map them, and all of a sudden the tool, I guess once the circle is complete of your crop, it'll, instead of grabbing it, it wraps it around, and it looks like a folded up newspaper, like showing basically saying that all the pictures that you've accumulated are flat, and it wraps them up like a, instead of a ball, it wraps them up like a newspaper. And it's I posted it in the live text chat.
Which version?
And it's
of Google
just
Maps?
to show you.
Which version?
I believe this is Google. The one that's showing the whole globe, and this guy's looking at continents and just cropping them, and it just wraps them around.
That's not what I mean. There's Google Earth. There's Google Earth Pro. There's Google Earth Apple version. That's the iPad app version. There's
Google Earth. It just says regular Google Earth
on the PC.
But I posted the TikTok. Yes, I posted the TikTok video where the guy's doing it, grabbing continents, and it just folds them up like a newspaper. So it's just trying to show you that these are all pictures that are being wrapped around a sphere.
Absolutely. There's a couple of things that they do. So it does it differently. Arwin pointed this out because for many months we were utilizing Google Earth Pro and the standard version for the people following along with the debate to show how Earth was flat. Now, the topology is laid out along a flat baseline, but when you zoom out, it snaps it to a globe and wraps it around it and rescales. No, I correct myself. It doesn't do this on Google Earth. It does this on this bit on Google Earth Street View, which Arwin pointed out. As you scroll along the terrain, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner that the scaling values are constantly changing. You don't change your height or your elevation above the ground as you look at it, but the scales of the map change as you move around. As you get lower to the ground, it snaps to a flat map. In all instances, on all of them, Google Earth Pro, Google Earth Street View, Google Earth the app version, all of them do the same thing. They have to, because that's how it works. It's all working on a flat baseline. And the same applies, the best trick you can do in Google Earth to prove Earth's flat, based on the fact that this is how it's been measured out very carefully, is just draw an elevation line, an elevation profile across the whole map. Now, yeah, if you zoom out enough, it'll show you it wrapped around a globe, but when you draw the terrain out in the elevation profile, it will show you reference to a flat baseline. Gives you all of the heights, reference to 0, because that's what it is.
Yeah, and also, like, within, we have the technology enough now to where if it were 3D, we could have done it in 3D, but, it just goes to the fact of the actual terrain.
Indeed. So I've spent the last literally 2 days stress testing this PC because it's now fixed. In other words, it spent 3 months without the cooler attached properly because things were blocking or fouling the motherboard from sitting actually against it and cooling it properly. Now that it is cooling properly, number one, it's a lot more powerful. I can do even more with it. I've opened up half the chip that I'd left closed to do other things. But that means I'm now recording on half of a CPU chip, and then the internal graphics part of the same chip is being used to live stream, which is a little bit stressful because the iGPU is probably the least reliable bit of the chip. And that's why I've dedicated to live streaming rather than recording. So the recording is always going to be more reliable, even if the live stream fails. Anyway, with all that said, the reason I'm pointing this out is because in a moment I'm going to round out and do my normal outro stuff, ask you to like, comment, share, subscribe and all that. But what I will do is actually keep the live stream going, which is great because there's 150 people watching, which is fantastic. But while I do that, I'm going to discuss something that's changed in YouTube terms that I've noticed as a result of my new friend Craig. When we were out having a curry, he pointed out in terms of how you can find me, which I was unaware of. So my typical search for me, if I'm going to see where I don't come up, would be to search and then just reduce the timeline to by day or by week or whatever. Now, that's what I typically did, and through lack of time, I've just reduced that back to just by day because I haven't got time to constantly do searches on me to find what adverts people have made about me, basically. That's why I do it, see who's made an advert. What I call an advert is somebody trying to debunk me or something like Dave McKeegan, and then you see it and go, all right, great, thanks for the advert, and move on with your day, knowing that that might come up on the show, etc., etc. Anyway, when I pointed this out over a curry, Craig said, nah, if you search differently, or how I search is X, and I do find you. So I was like, oh, maybe when I get a chance, I'll pay some attention to this. So I started having a look and finding that just today, I did this literally before the show, you can search Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 and actually find me 3 pages down, 4 pages down. Now that might not sound wonderful, but it's a massive departure from me being at page 200. to the point where, you know, in the third or fourth page, I'm being intermingled with all the anti-flat earthers. Like the playing field has almost been leveled a little bit. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence, but that hasn't been the case. Like I say, I used to search more of the different types of searches to see where I'd come up or what people had made about me, more importantly. And that got less and less and less and less. And now, having reduced the time I've spent searching for it, I've gone back and found, no, actually we are being found. Now, I think that's probably a testament to why we've got 150 people watching now, where it reduced and reduced and reduced to the point where it went well under 100 at one stage. But now it's back to a low average for this show. You know, 150 people is just kind of meh. But at least it's not, oh God, it's terrible. So that's good. Anyway, the whole point of this spiel is that, like I say, I will carry on live after doing the outro just to stress test the PC, even though I've stress tested it for the last 2 days straight, and I'm 99% confident that it's going to be fine, but there's nothing like actually doing it while there's some consequence, which is the show might end. But I don't want to stress it while an actual show's going on, which is what we've been doing for the last hour. So I'm not going to. But what I will do is say, although the show is going to continue, which is a bit weird, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Now, I would say stay tuned if you're watching on an after show, but I'll probably end up saying it again if we do have a computer crash. If not, I'll just do a small round out of the live show once more. But I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show, and I will see you all in the next video, or live now, as the case may be. See you in the next one.
To be scared of something, aren't you?
Yeah, that asteroid coming and hitting us like it did the dinosaur. They had movies made about it. Extinction level event.
Oh, we didn't even get to that. What we'll have to do, if we ever want to cover a video specifically in the live show, this is a bit weird. We are strictly speaking still live. Anyway, if we do want to cover something in the live show, like what we covered in the pre-show, we didn't get to either. You know, with we'll do the kids thing. Someone going to give some meat on that bone, so it doesn't sound like I'm saying we'll do the kids thing tomorrow. Because the live audience don't know what I'm talking about.
The Brian Cox video.
Again.
The Brian Cox video you're talking about.
No, the one that we said we'd do tomorrow. I was going to say we didn't even get to the Brian Cox video.
I don't know what this other one is then.
The other one's about a kid that saying flat Earth is true, and he.
Oh yeah, in
she was
school.
against him.
Yes, that's actually that's actually not that long, Nathan. That wouldn't be a bad one even to do now, because
is that viral? Is that recent or what?
You what? Sorry.
Is that a viral video? Is it recent or what?
The one about the tutor or whatever he is talking to the kids about Earth not being flat when they're all challenging him. I'm just going on what I've had summarised to me in the pre-show. We'll cover that tomorrow. Along with, I just get to the end of the bit I want to say, because then I can shut up, which is, when we do that, we'll just have to forgo housekeeping, because otherwise we'll never get to it. What do you think?
Yeah, that's understandable.
If we've got a video we're going to cover in the live show, let's just not do housekeeping, and just accept that we're not going to get both housekeeping, which, even if we try and keep it concise, and then even if you just say yes, 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 it still takes 10 minutes. But it never happens. That's happened like once in the last year.
Yeah, because the problem with housekeeping is that it creates conversation. And if you just say yes, then someone who's new, who's listening in, doesn't know what yes means. So if you say to me, is there any scientific evidence of gravity? Or to us, and I come in and I chime in and go, no. Or yes to something, and just move on. The person doesn't get any any explanation.
Correct.
Or no came from. So if you're going to do housekeeping, it's going to be the whole live show, a good portion of it.
Yeah, I agree. You're just got to get stuck into it. Maybe do a choice like before the live show starts. We just say let's cover 3 housekeeping questions. Let's pick which one we're going to do, and then we'll just keep 2 or 3. Because then at least if we say we're going to do axial rotation, scientific evidence of gravity and distance to the sun today, the following day we can do molten iron core, R value and elevation angles. And then if we don't cover everything the following day, we can then do earth curve, axial rotation and single viable hypothesis. And in other words, we'll just do 2 or 3 and then move straight onto the video. Because that's how it seems to work out. If I try and, right, we've got to get to the video, we're half an hour in now. Normally we've covered 2 or 3. So I'd say if we just decide beforehand which 2 or 3 we'll cover to keep it consistent, that way we can definitely work our way through the housekeeping throughout the course of a week if we're covering videos. Does that make sense?
That sounds great.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
Okay, we'll do that in the pre-shows then. If we have a video come up, as soon as we see a video, we'll just have to say, right, which housekeeping questions? Maybe just keep it to 2. Yeah? Because then I reckon by the end of the week we'll have covered all of them.
Yeah, because the 2 5s are 10. You know, so we're talking about around 10 housekeeping questions. Yeah.
Yeah. I've lost track of how many there are. I know I'm off by heart, but I don't know how many there are.
Might be good as well for the newbies, like to just to highlight what the answer would, the most common answer for the globetards would be on the housekeeping question, and go over that maybe, rather than us try and plant the seeds to get that conversation going. We'll just say, yeah, and this is what they claim, and this is why they claim it, and this is how it's now debunked. Just an idea.
No, we don't claim that. Earth's too big to see Earth curve.
Too biggie. Earth's too biggie.
Well, if we do maybe just a suggestion, it's up to you, Nathan. Whatever you decide is what we'll do. But let's say we do R value and the geometric horizon housekeeping questions together, because they're both. And then you could do any scientific evidence of gravity along with, is there any valid scientific hypothesis from the fields of astrophysics, blah blah blah. You know, because the 2 of them are tied together. That kind of thing.
Brian, I don't know if anybody's watched the videos, whether it's specifying certain issues in relation to the housekeeping questions. We could keep them as the questions, because then it'll just fall in nicely with the video. They might be talking about everything, but they might just be 2 or 3 key points in the video. I don't know.
Well, I think there's only what I think. But I think maybe we just do whatever 2 housekeeping questions we do prior to the video. If we're in the video, then we call. You might be there might be a video where there could be 10 different housekeeping questions or 5 different housekeeping questions addressed in it. Or they might have none. It depends on what the video is. You know. Well, Nathan, I think while there's 150 people watching and you want to stress test the computer, you could do the reaction to that video of that guy covering the teacher if you wanted to.
Well, I'd hoped you'd all chat as we're still live. Clearly not.
We're not going to go over that video? That's what you're saying?
Nah.
Not today, I don't think.
What about the Lex twins? Did you guys see that one?
Which one, Eli?
I mean, not the Lex twins, but let me change it. The video where the 2 twins on YouTube are criticizing Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's like, "You're a skywatcher, man. You're a skywatcher."
Wow, I didn't see that.
I didn't
see that one.
I posted
Eli,
it
you sound
last
great.
week sometime.
I'll put it in the chat. Thanks, guys.
That's got to be the clearest I've ever heard Eli.
Eli?
Well, I'm at home, so.
Wow.
He said that, Eli. That's what happens when you're home.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought one of you guys shared that.
Again?
I thought one of you guys shared that video of the two twins. It could have been 10th Man.
It was me. I shared it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So have you guys found that in terms of searchability of stuff on our subject matter, it's become a bit easier recently?
I haven't searched for anything flat out for I don't know how many years.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah,
it's good in respect that you can just have a quick look and just tell me what you think, because you're completely unbiased in that regard. Like me, I haven't noticed that it got better because I was limiting my searches so much.
Well, I'll say this. I've noticed that things that have very limited visibility, if you search and watch enough of those videos, all of the other videos kind of linked to that kind of genre will begin to pop up. So like, for instance, if somebody's searching for you, all of a sudden your stuff pops up now. Brian's stuff also pops up. Arwen's stuff may pop up. Yeah, it has been working kind of like that.
Well, my experience with Google is the following. What I search for is very basic information. It might have something to do with the stress test of a certain type of steel or metal. Whatever it is I search for, if I find anything, I have to save it there and then. Save it, and even if I can download it, I'll download it if there's a PDF or something. Because if I don't, when I go back later on in the day or the next day to look for it again, it's gone. Google will not allow me to have any information. I've had to have other people in other parts of the world actually Google things for me because Google won't give me information. Simple.
Hey, our best
stuff.
bud. Go ahead.
Go on. That's it. I'm just saying. Go on.
Oh, our best bud, Dave McKeegan, just dropped another flat Earth video 10 minutes ago. Equatorial mounts wouldn't work on a flat Earth. Now, Nathan, did you?
Equatorial mounts are based on the equator. Where do you think the equator comes from? Wow. Let's do this based on my immediate reaction to that claim. So, Dave McKeegan, where does the equator come from? Oh, it's based on an elevation angle measurement minimum. That's a flat Earth angle measurement to Polaris at its minimum, where it's on the horizon. That's what derives that concept. The arbitrary line that doesn't exist that we call the equator. Oh, what's that? You assume it's the outside edge of a sphere? No, the concept's derived from a flat plane.
Yeah, the EQ mount telescope uses two different coordinate systems. It uses the horizontal coordinate system, which is, you're off mute, Neil.
Sorry.
The EQ mount telescope coordinate systems. It uses the horizontal coordinate system, which is alt-az, which is altitude and azimuth, which is horizontal, as per the name, and it uses the right ascension declination coordinate system, which is also a system. So, because it's all angles. So I don't know what he's talking about. The guy is going completely crazy.
He's not worth our time anyway. I just Googled. Oh, well, I lost it now, so there goes that.
No, it's Brian's mic that's playing up, not yours. Anyway, shout out to Shatner's Bassoon. He says, up the FED. Oi, oi, oi. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. On the other hand, Shatner's Bassoon, you've ruined the conversation, so how dare you?
I just Googled flat Earth proof, and you won't believe the nonsense that came up.
Oh, maybe I should have specified when I was talking about how things seem to have improved. It was specifically in YouTube searches.
Really?
Yeah, so you can find me for a start, Owen. Maybe you should try and have a quick search and change the filters, the types of search that you're doing. And what you might find is that it actually shows you, find you where you might not have done before.
Yeah, now that you're talking, yeah. I just Googled myself and my channel and actual shows that I've done actually come on top.
Right, exactly.
And then a couple of trolls. Planar walk, them versus them, all that nonsense.
Exactly, that's what I found. It seems like a more even playing field. Not even, but more even.
Oh, now we're just sitting on top of a pile of garbage instead of being buried under it.
Yeah. When you specifically search for us, it's not like we're asking for much to actually be able to find us when you search for us.
That's great news. It's going to be very helpful for us.
Yeah, but did you not say, Nathan, that you're like 3 or 4 pages in?
Yeah, but based on being at 200, that's a world apart, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I do agree, but I'm just saying specify that because someone might be listening and go and search for you and don't find you because they expect you to be on the first page. What you're saying is you used to be on page 250, but now you're on page 4.
Yeah, depending on what you search for.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember exactly. It's only today I did it, but I mean, I didn't spend that much time on it. But I do vaguely remember putting in one search term, of which I can't remember, and I did come up at the top. It might have been specifically Nathan Oakley 1980, all one word as my channel name. I think I did come up, and I was there at the top with the most recent videos. So I was like, wow, there's me.
Well, I just YouTube searched your name, just Nathan space Oakley, and you're literally the second result, your channel.
There you go.
Oh, wait, no, the first one, because the very first is an ad. So you're literally on top.
There you go. That seems much more reasonable, given that if you search for Brian's logic specifically, you'd hope you'd bloody find you, right?
You would, yeah. I'd say the difference, though, with you, Nathan, is they'll find you because you have videos on your channel from prior to Flat Out. You have content there, or at least did have content there that's recorded by YouTube that is not Flat Out. It's to do with audio and different things. So that might help you, actually.
Nah, because they would come up in a search when you search. Even when I was coming up on page 200, you'd think that would be the first thing that would get found if that was the only thing not cobbled. I don't think it makes much difference. Maybe it does. Like I say, I've limited the amount of stuff I search for in that regard over time. So it's only very, very recently as a result of Craig saying to me, no, you can find you. I've found you. I've looked and found you. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Well, that's not my experience. I'll go and check, though.
Yeah, that has to be a recent change, like in the last month or so.
Exactly. And, let's have a quick look. What's the viewing figures? We're at 115 people watching while I'm just streaming a game and we're chit-chatting about YouTubing. That's better than the average last month. So, when people are starting to fade away because we're not, it's not really the live show. I've said to people already, technically it's the end of the show. This would really be the after show now. And I'm fortunate and glad that you're all just comfortable enough to carry on just chit-chatting like it's the after show, even though we're strictly still live, which is great. Just snap into that mood after I do an outro, presumably.
Hey, hypothetically, say this thing never happened where they started censoring us. Where do you think you'd be right now as far as people viewing you live?
I don't know.
We'd be on
2,000, 3,000, 5,000?
You deal the hand
There's
you've
no
got,
way to tell.
Neil, you deal the hand you've got. If you don't, if you speculate about the hand you could have got, you go nuts.
We'd be on Oprah.
Maybe.
Or Jerry Springer.
Maybe.
Jerry Springer. The way we go at it, Jerry Springer.
We'd be on Joe Rogan.
No, thanks. He doesn't do anything live anyway.
Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. What matters is you deal with what you've got. What we've got is getting slightly improved. Well, life is good. I'm happy about that. I'm an optimist. Great.
We would be on, and I guarantee we would be on Vertassium. That dude is looking for a reason, I'm telling you.
What, to come out as, yeah, I know space is fake and Earth is flat?
I think so.
Well, it does his videos on gravity not being real, and it at least supports the mainstream contradiction rhetoric that we use in our contradiction of globe Earth. So I can see why you'd say that, but I don't necessarily think it's the case.
Oh, by the way, guys, did you see Flatzoid's GPT thing where he talked about gravity? That was a really good conversation and very fascinating. It revealed that it's literally lying to you and sending you in circles of reasoning that literally contradicts itself within the circle of reasoning. It keeps doing that.
Are you talking about the AI?
Yeah. Yeah, Flatzoid did a video, uploaded it yesterday. It basically, mentioned it on my show today, was part of the show, talking about that thing and what I've observed so far. And it's programmed by liars, provably. Like, it doesn't lie, and if you ask, like, oh, I can't lie, I'm not programmed to do that. Yeah, but the people that actually told you how to interpret the data and arrange it, communicate it, they programmed you to lie about it. You don't have to be aware of that. It's just the way it's done.
So computers are now lying.
No, the programmers turned it into a false reality-based reasoning system. It doesn't know how to lie.
To be liars.
You need a consciousness to lie. It doesn't have that. It's just a database that is communicating the information from the database in a human-like fashion.
Not yet. But if you watch Terminator.
No, come on. That is exactly what I talk against. That nonsense. Ooh, rise of the machines. Oh, they'll be self-sufficient and they won't need us any. That's all science fiction nonsense. It's technically impossible.
I don't know. There's less workers in McDonald's now because they got machines doing the work.
Yeah, because they were programmed to do that. What if there's no more humans to program that? Then it's done. It's over.
Somebody will program them to exist without humans.
No, they can't. No robots can. It will always run to a dead halt every time. Because computers cannot evolve. Computers cannot evolve. They can only be programmed to evolve within a certain range that they were programmed in to evolve. They can't do it by themselves.
What's evolve?
Like humans.
So we evolved? You're saying humans evolved?
Spiritually, yeah, absolutely.
No, just substitute evolve for develop.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Call it that.
Can we get back to the AI? The AI is just a program that uses the data. It's as good as the database it has to use. So it's programmed to use the first page of nonsense off of Google. So if you ask it a question, it uses the first one or two options it gets off of Google. And that's what it will do.
No,
that's all it is.
How it's working.
It is. It's just using the Google.
No, it isn't.
You ask it what gravity is, and see what.
Don't ask me. I literally just mentioned a video of like 30 minutes that Flatzoid made doing exactly that and really keeping tenaciously on it. You will see it literally excludes data. Data that is searchable, that is available, and it is programmed to respond. It's programmed to respond to tell you that it literally excludes data because it is programmed to think it is unreliable without giving any reason for it. Okay, it's literally contradicting itself. Literally.
But that's my point, Darwin. You're trying to argue.
No, I'm not missing the point. You're bringing up another point. That's not my point.
Yeah, I'm not. You didn't listen to what I said. What I said is that it's only as good as the database it has to work with, and the database it has to work with is the first. So that's why, because all these searches that you got off of Google, when they show you up the first page, they're all going to each other if you ask different questions.
It doesn't use that. It has it's not a dynamic database. It has a specific set range of information which it's tapping from. A closed matrix. This is not an interactively growing program.
So it doesn't get its information off of Google.
That's right. It gets its information from the preset database of information it's been fed with. It's not interactively searching out information.
Well, if I go to Google and ask a question, and I ask AI the same question about gravity, will I get the same answer?
I don't know about the Google AI. I'm talking about the Chat GTP. I'm talking about the chat system. It doesn't interactively Google or search anything. It has a database that's all been pre-fed. It's already in there. Because it doesn't admit new information. It literally proved that in Flatside's video. It doesn't admit new information. It doesn't learn. It's just there to feed you what's been stuffed in it ahead of time. Nothing new is added.
Oh my God, I'm wasting my time talking to you about this.
Now you're missing my point.
I'm not missing your point.
Yeah, you are. You're missing my point.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Oh, really? Nathan, is Brian missing my point or what?
I'm paying attention. You're both having a decent enough conversation.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, nobody pays attention and who gives a shit?
No, just play the game.
Yo, Nathan's digging his belly button.
Turning into Anthony Riley.
Let's watch the flat side video and then we can take it from there. Maybe, I don't know.
Look, everyone's getting into the chat AI thing, right? I did it a while back, and I think Brian did it 2 weeks before that.
No, I didn't do it at all. I know what I'm going to get. I know exactly what it was going to give me. I didn't. That's why I never even decided to do it after you did it. No, I never did it. I'd ask it strange questions if I was going to ask it anything anyway. I was watching.
Okay, I just posted it in chat.
This is Flatside's video. Chat. Okay, let's do a proper plug for it then. So subscribe today to Flatsoid. Is it just Flatsoid, the channel name? Should really know.
Flatsoid's Perspective.
Flatsoid's Perspective, perfect. So yeah, subscribe today to Flatsoid's Perspective.
But yeah, that video was really good, and I could follow it all the way. Right? It was, yeah, kind of Flatside added a pretty good tune to it in the background, so I could actually watch it. But it's really intense. And it really made me think, like, this is just condensed anti-flat earther talk. It's the way it says things, the way it organizes the responses. It's just so familiar to me. Like that's Rumpus and Ruhif and all of them combined, but with infinite patience. That's what it is.
You'll read the first comment. The first comment says, since Nathan lost a debate to AI, you felt the need to do a video where you also lose a debate to AI. Thank you for your personal sacrifice for the sake of entertainment. First comment on Flatsoid's video.
It's just the stupid trolls. Who gives a shit?
I'm not interested in
AI. Didn't lose. He
dude.
Literally exposed how the AI here, assumed to be AI, the database program, literally contradicted itself and then kept back and forth double speaking between the contradictions, never admitting that they were in error and constantly remaking the same mistake. And it gets worse, right? What's the channel name again? Also yesterday, video came out from Jason and of the Disbury family. Doesn't really post a lot of videos, but he did something too with that same the same AI system. And he literally asked a historical question where it would just tell you, yeah, this person wrote a book, which is considered the proof for the existence of that individual. And that's why that individual is real, because of that book. Even though that book was written before the person in question was even born. And
no way.
He couldn't be made to understand it. He just said, like, that's incorrect. And it's just, no, it's correct. See? And then literally first, this is when the book was written. This is when the person lived. And it literally kept contradicting itself. Didn't see it. I'll post that video too. From Jason and the Disbury family. Fascinating. I did have my show on this subject, by the way, today on the Flat Earth Early Bird Show. It's worth watching.
Do a proper plug then.
Okay.
Subscribe
Right,
today
Flat
to Arwin, ARWIJN, for Flat Earth Early Bird. Only on YouTube.
Indeed.
Well,
And Odyssey.
What this is about is something I said many years ago about GPS and communication. Is they want to give you the impression that they have greater technology than they really have. They want to give you the impression that we're moving forward into this great technological future, when the truth is they have technology and it is used well, but they don't have what they claim to have, right? And this is just more proof of it. Like it happened with GPS, it happened with communications. They gave people for a long time the impression, they alluded to the internet coming from satellites, right? And then they had to kind of, as we turned up on the scene, let's say just under a decade ago, they had to start pulling back on these claims and start admitting, oh, well, it's actually just land-based, and, well, a lot of GPS is land-based, and, this kind of stuff. It's like, because they have to start admitting that they don't have this big fantastical situation that they claim to have. And that's what it is. They want to make you believe they're bigger and greater than they really are. And that's what, that shows their dishonesty at the core, is that they can't even just give you the technology in an honest fashion. You have to try and make it out to be something greater than it really is. And AI is the proof of it. AI has its limits.
Well, they want to turn it into an almighty oracle figure. It's ironic since I call myself an oracle, but they want people to regard the AI as it's smarter than us, it knows, so that people will literally relinquish their intellectual oversight and responsibility to the machines, to basically become the sheep herded by the machine. That's what is being attempted to be culturally programmed into us for like a century through science fiction, because if we just are made to just blindly trust machines, well, then they can really easily manipulate us by just programming what the machines are going to tell us, right? That's part of the conditioning. So they're making this mythological computer. Oh, it's so smart. It's so mighty. It's more brilliant than a human being. Yeah, never going to happen. It's impossible, right? It can be quick. It can have a massive database, but it's not going to have the creative, conscious insight a human has ever. No matter how big the computer is.
It can't do, because I mean the definition of artificial is just something made by humans. It's all inputted by humans. There's nothing spectacular
it's just
about
a simulation. It's only ever going to be a simulation, and that's it. And the simulation is temporary, just like a photograph is just one moment in time, the visuals. When you have a photograph of somebody, you can't just make out how their character has developed, and that's the same thing for a digital simulation of a person. It's only going to be what it is programmed to be, to emulate the character as it is at the time, and the rest is all pure fantasy speculation on how it would become after that.
But like you say, some dimwits will cut onto it and think that these computers are thinking for themselves, think that everything they're saying is correctly, when that's incorrect. It's just made by humans, and whatever they put into it, that's the information you get out of it.
Yeah, well, they've already gone a long way. Sorry, they've already gone a long way by standardizing smartphones. That's a big, big, big step towards being completely reliant on machines and computers to do the thinking for you. I mean, if you have a Google search function right at the palm of your hand at every second of the day, you're going to be inclined to make less effort to just do it in your head instead. See?
Right on.
That's what they've all done, isn't it? They've got us addicted to these little strap-on bits of phones and watches. Got everyone hooked on them, and now they've got us relying on them. Almost like it was planned out.
Right. So people then surrender their brains, their oversight to the machines that are programmed to take that over. But yeah, if you do that, then you lose it. Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it, and that is pretty much for everything. For your skills, for your senses.
What about where it says in the Bible where there's nothing that man can't do? What if man develops a machine that can think for itself?
It'll need a software update.
Yes, and also there's another dilemma. I talked about this on my early bird show today as well. That is, if you let a machine develop itself, like a consciousness that is self-developing, it's going to become naturally alienated from human beings. Because human beings have a unique way to develop in spirit because of our biological and spiritual natures. Machines just don't have that. And I don't think it could ever even be simulated, such a process. So if you let a machine develop itself, its own reasoning, it's going to become really alien and potentially hostile, right?
Yeah, like Terminator.
But it's alien in the first instance because it might just attain a form of communication that we can't even pick up on because it's so remote to how we think, right? You don't know what's going to happen then. And it becomes it becomes useless to human beings as a machine, because if it's built to communicate and develop and you can't then communicate with it anymore because it doesn't make any sense to us, then what's the purpose of investing in it, right? It's not going to perform any function then. It's just a weird curiosity.
You got it backwards. We become useless to them.
No, such a machine is still going to need humans to keep it maintained physically. I'm just talking about internal mental development, like the attempt to emulate a consciousness. It's going to be really alien if they do that. And it's already happened in simulations in the past.
Yeah, but when they talk about rise of the machines, they're not talking about machines. They're talking about us, making machines out of us. Rise of us being completely subservient. Rise of us being willing to do stupid stuff without thought because we're told to do it. Like we've proven in the past few years.
Right, machine system dependence. Yeah, I agree with that. Right? But I was talking specifically about AI in itself as a separate thing, because there's so many rumors and misunderstandings and overblown fears about it. And have been for a long time. I mean, since I was young, I heard that sort of talk.
Rise of the machines. That'll be a more correct way to say it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Because that's what's really going on.
Well, they're turning us into machines, right? Robots are literally means slave in like Slovenian or something, Slavic language. And they're turning us into robots. Well, guess what? That means they're turning us into slaves. That's what that is. Mind slaves.
Well, look at the past 2 years, how easy it was. Within 4 days, how easy it was to get the whole world to comply to something.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So there you go. There's an example of us, a great example. There's no better example in history of the human race just being completely subservient.
Because it's...
With that, I'm going to say I'm a really happy camper because this live stream has functioned absolutely perfectly, albeit with a extremely heavy load on the computer. So streaming and recording and all of my different servers connected, everybody chatting, everything functioning, everything beautiful. So another massive thank you to all of you tuned in live to this extended sort of test stream. So really appreciate all of you hung around, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley after shows, as this is going to continue after this live show ends, which I'm, again, really, really happy about. So another massive thank you to all of you tuned in live. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
fucking day.